Hey everyone, Chloe here and welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, ladies and lurkers, welcome. So today's Feminine School video, as promised, will be all about the wounded masculine, how to identify it and how it shows up in men and or in the masculine divine. Now, a couple of housekeeping issues. Before we get to the heart of this educational video, please keep in mind that dysfunction, insecurity, and inadequacies in men will come at all class levels and will come in all races and nationalities of men. A weak and insecure man, ladies, for the most part, wants the worship of respect and admiration without ever having to earn it. But a weak and insecure man will always be at war with a woman and will use a woman for abusive target practice instead of doing the required masculinity work to learn how to fix, mend, and repair himself. In addition, if you are a woman who has a history of attracting damaging, abusive partners, that is your signal of love from the universe that you will need to work on the reasons on why you keep bumping your head. Now, please keep in mind that men, just like women, are not perfect. So please keep in mind that most men will possess some form of wounded masculinity, whether it being abandoned by their fathers or products of divorce or coming from toxic family dynamics. But if he isn't committed to some form of self-improvement, consider him red flag damaged goods. Please also keep in mind that it is not a woman's job to fix, repair, rebuild, or to rescue a man's wounded masculine. As women, we do have limitations in the masculine realm, and we cannot teach men or model to a man how to be masculine. Our inclination as women, especially when mothering, is to coddle, to protect, to baby. And as women, it is our inclination to steer boys away from danger and to over-nurture men, which can often lead to a stunted, a stifled, or an underdeveloped masculinity, and will often leave young men and boys at a disadvantage and at a deficit when they are not informed by healthy examples of masculinity. And of course, this is what will continue to perpetuate the generational curse. Now, in order to define the wounded masculine, let's first start out by defining the textbook definition of masculinity and what it means. Masculinity is having qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of men, such as strength, virility, fatherhood, courage, structure, and I will add power, protection, provision, and leadership. So yes, ladies, masculinity is a huge, huge responsibility. So the wounded masculine, in essence, is a glaring absence of masculinity and or healthy masculinity that can lead a man to harming himself, to harming his family, and to harming his community. And the red flag signs of the wounded masculine are indeed a huge blind spot for many women, particularly Black women, as conversations on the masculine and the feminine divine are basically absent in our communities. And in many instances, we simply will resort to name calling, bozos, losers, dusties, and clowns, to name a few. But unhealthy masculinity truly has led to rampant relationship dysfunction, rampant family dysfunction, and has truly led to rampant gender warring and out-of-pocket relationship disrespect between both men and women. But when a man is in his wounded masculine, romantic relationships will be chaotic, unharmonious, damaging, dysfunctional, and just downright destructive and disastrous. So here are 16 signs of the wounded masculine. Number 16, a man who has a broken, toxic, or an unhealed relationship with his father will be wounded. Fathers are responsible for modeling healthy masculinity to their sons, and without this example, the wounded masculine will be in severe disrepair, and it will be up to that man to fix it. Number 15, a man who has been abandoned, abused, and or mishandled or mistreated by his mother will be in his wounded masculine. Men who are broken by their mothers are more common than you think, and with this abuse and neglect will generally come a love-hate, untrustworthy relationship with women that will come with a very flawed, a very skewed, and a very damaging perception of women that will affect his romantic relationships. Number 14, any man who does not have a job or who isn't gainfully employed will automatically be in his wounded masculine, as masculinity is directly correlated to work and or generating income, and as women we are wired to respect and to desire resources for our stability, our security, and for our survival for ourselves and our children. Number 13, men who lack ambition, discipline, drive, planning, direction, or who generally lack an understanding of the capitalism money system are in their wounded masculine. Competition is the base root of capitalism, and it is a man's responsibility to not only learn how to compete, but also to learn how to win in this money system. A huge part of healthy masculinity is understanding that you will have to compete with other men to build your wins. And this lack of ambition is unfortunately where a lot of men are failing. Number 12, men who resent or reject discipline. An undisciplined man, lazy or unfocused, will never accomplish what he says he wants to do. He will instead procrastinate, talk a good game, make excuses, or look for shortcuts or scams to accomplish his goals. And as we all know, ladies, scams and shortcuts will eventually catch up to any scammer. Ladies, when it comes to men, always understand that there is no substitute for hard work. Number 11, a man who lacks executive power will be in his wounded masculine. Executive power, for those of you who don't know, is a man's financial ability to provide for his family in a way that will garner him respect and admiration. And both respect and admiration are needed for a man to feel his absolute best. Executive power, at minimum, can range from a man being able to fully provide for his family to a man who can run companies and or build successful businesses, and or a man who creates employment or economic opportunities for others. Examples of executive power: a provider husband who doesn't need his wife to work, a CEO, or men like Diddy or Jay-Z or Jeff Bezos. Those are men who create jobs for others. Number 10, men who are not proud of their career choices, the jobs, or the source of their employment are generally embarrassed and or will feel feelings of insecurity and shame. Wounded masculinity loading. Number 9, any man who seeks role reversal, who expects to be provided for, any man who looks to a woman to pay his bills, or any man who's over-reliant on a woman to take care of him financially is completely out of order. Number 8, speaking of order, and some feathers will be ruffled to hear this, but the divine masculine order will always be God, man, woman, and child, as this is the order that represents the circle of life. Now, please keep in mind that order does not mean that a man is entitled to abuse you, imprison you, control you, enslave you, or oppress you. The order is about respecting the equity that man, woman, and child bring to the table of life. A man who is in his healthy divine masculine will cherish, adore, protect, and provide for his wife, because that is the divine role of a husband. If you are confused about what equity means, please watch my video on equity versus equality for better clarity. Number 7, any adult male who is chronically immature, emotionally stunted, or stagnant, or who expects to be mothered like a child is in his wounded masculine. Men who are passive are generally men who have learned how to get their needs met through sneaky, tricky, passive-aggressive, and manipulating ways. Men who cannot assert themselves are generally wounded in their masculine. Number 6, men who objectify women and or men who practice misogyny are generally men who have a low opinion of women, their worth, and their equity. And they are generally men who have abusive mindsets who will lack respect for women. Number 5, men who have chronic mental illness issues, narcissism, histrionic personality disorder, borderline schizophrenic personality disorder are men who are generally incapable of providing and protecting due to their very fragile, inconsistent, distorted, and unstable mindsets that will drive them towards extreme manipulative behaviors to get their needs met. Number 4, men who are aggressive, look at me, attention seekers are men who are in their wounded masculine. Attention-seeking men are men who literally go out of their way to chase the spotlight or to seek popularity without having any discernible talent, or they like to be courted, prized, or they are motivated by vanity, which is lacking substance, and will use antics and stunts to prop up their sense of self-worth. Men who were neglected in their childhoods are always starving for attention, and they are always looking for validation of any kind. Number 3, and this is a huge one, men who are disconnected from fatherhood. As a result, he does not want to be held responsible or accountable for being the head of a household, to be a husband, or to be financially anchored to having to provide for his children. But as we all know, ladies, men who don't take care of their kids have bad luck, and there is no man alive who neglects taking care of his kids that will have a happy ending. Number 2, a man who does not honor, respect, recognize, or who has a blind spot for womanhood or femininity. And this is especially true if their mothers were not feminine. He will not understand the distinguished characteristic differences between men and women. And there are a lot of men and women who will believe that both men and women are the same, and they aren't. And number 1, men who want a pity party. These are the men who are more emotionally invested in their grievances, their frustrations, their belly aching, their complaining, and their powerlessness versus being invested in their manhood and their self-improvement. And these weak men and their pick-me dust bunny supporters are belly aching all over social media looking for sympathy. So that is all that I have to say on this for now. In a nutshell, ladies, healthy masculinity teaches and models to men how to handle danger, not avoid it, and it will teach and model to men strategies on how to succeed and compete with confidence, mental toughness, and discipline, instead of playing the very immature, the very redundant ring around the rosy echo chamber blame game on women. Now, of course, your best asset, ladies, in attracting healthy masculinity is to develop healthy femininity by pouring into your own feminine divine and by subscribing to this channel. So, ladies and lurkers, is the wounded masculine a part of your family legacy, or are the men in your family wonderful providers and protectors? I look forward to reading your amazing responses to this wounded masculine video below. And stay tuned for more feminine school videos to come. And I will catch up with you ladies and lurkers and ear hustlers in the next one.